Dear all, thank you for staying with us at the Budapest Eurasia Forum 2024 conference, and warm welcome to those who have just joined in. The forum continues with the third panel titled Geopolitics. The future of geopolitics, the geopolitics of the future. In this panel, our distinguished speakers will explore the transformative shifts in global power dynamics and how emerging economic and political hubs, influenced by the advancements of Industrial Revolution 5.0, impact the nature of global conflicts over resources and influence. One of the critical questions of the panel is how undergoing radical changes with economic and political power transitions influence our future. First, let me invite Mr. Norbert Csizmadia on stage, the President of the Board of Trustees at the Pallas Athénée Domus Meriti Foundation, who will moderate the fireside chat dedicated to geopolitics. Mr. Csizmadia is also a well-known geographer, geopolitical and geo-economic thinker, and author of several books. Welcome. Please also give a warm welcome to Gülşen KARANIS, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey in Hungary. Ms. KARANIS is also a member of the Board of Trustees of the Genç Hayat Foundation in Istanbul and the co-coordinator of Antalya Diplomacy Forum, an initiative of the Turkish Foreign Ministry. Your Excellency, welcome. Please welcome on stage Mr. Henry Huiyao Wang, founder and president of the Center for China and Globalization and former counselor to the China State Council. In his current position, he facilitates research on globalization, global governance, international economy and trade, as well as international relations and global migration. Dear panelists, dear Mr. Csizmadia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. So very glad to be here, this amazing fireside chatting. We are gathered here as a pivotal time about the true age of geopolitics, where the shift the global power and influence shapes not only policies, economies, but always lives of the people around the world. So this environment, the strategic importance of understanding and addressing of the geopolitical issues has never been more critical. So our panel today will delve some most pressing questions of facing interconnected world. The geopolitics is no longer just about the boundaries between nations. It's about how is the geography, economy, technology, the power converges, the reshape or global landscape. I'll call this concept is like geo-vision. The geo-future is about the synthesis of geography and the geopolitics, and the geo-fusion, the idea to speak about the fusion of geography and the global force of technology, economic power, the fusion of the alliance, influencing trade, sparkling the new dialogue between East and West, and how the West, especially here in Eurasia. So we're very glad and the fire chat the partners about the Gülşen EKŞIOİOğlu, the ambassador of the Turkey, and Henry Wang, the founder, the president of China Globalization CCG in Beijing. So the first question, so how do you interpret the term of geopolitics, and what is the geopolitical thinking of the everyday decision making, and where do you find about the importance?
So thank you very much. Thank you for the question. We have discussed recently a lot about the return of geopolitics. So, as ambassador, as a diplomat, geopolitics is part and parcel of our daily business. But I think the phrase of return is widely used because of the major changes in international politics and also elevation of the conflicts everywhere. So there is, of course, a spatial dimension of geopolitics, and geography is definitely an important part of it. By the way, I liked your conceptualizing about the geo-vision because it has all major instruments of power, and that's why it's very important and very vital to also express these important factors of power as well. So we see especially the long-established parameters of international relations are no longer there. And we see that the multilateral mechanisms are not able to address the current challenges. And we have new challenges in today's world, such as illegal migration, such as food security, such as climate change. They are the new challenges that we're all facing with. And it is very important also to underline these geopolitical rivalries and wrestling between great powers are increasing. And it is on the rise, and we have hybrid and as well as also cyber threats, and the lines between war and peace are becoming less visible. So the title of the panel of today, this Future of Geopolitics and Geopolitics of the Future, I think it's very interesting, also very important as well. When we talk about the future of geopolitics, the first part of it, it doesn't look that bright, I have to say, because of the uncertainties, because of the complexity of the current issues, and because of the current mechanisms are not able to address the challenges. But however, geopolitics of the future, I think it is more promising, and it is more also, from my point of view, more exciting because of the new players in international relations. We have new actors. We have also non-governmental organizations. And by the way, you know, when we talk about cyber threats, when we talk about the new dimensions, there is no geographical borders anymore when we face new threats. That's why I think for the geopolitics of the future, there is more promising room to play for all of us.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wang?
Thank you, Norbert. And absolutely, I think geopolitics really for a contemporary world is that the international politics, the international development, but also the emerging of the global landscape is really undergoing rapidly changing, you know. So it combines economics, it combines security and also development, but also the peace and prosperity that we've been enjoying for the last 80 years since the first Bretton Woods system. So I think on today's geopolitical situation, it's much more now, with the populism and nationalism really driving geopolitics crazy, you know, because we haven't really realized that geopolitics, it's becoming such a big factor now. It's also related with war, with conflicts, with all the economic trade war and sanctions and what have you. So in short, I think the UN system, you know, the global system we've been so accustomed to for the last 70, 80 years is rapidly also changing as well. So I think unipolar world, polar world is gradually phasing, but also multipolar world system hasn't really established yet. So we are in transition. So this geopolitical thing gets more prominent because we haven't got a solution to stabilize the world. And then that's why I think the conference we're having today is really very interesting. And I think that the global south and, of course, countries like Hungary and, of course, China and Turkey and all can play more active role now. We just finished the G20, also APEC summit. We see the world is still not in good shape yet. I think the world leaders hasn't really come to the consensus. So why can't we have a Budapest consensus? You know, while we're having meetings here, and then let's really work out some middle way approach for really stabilize the geopolitical turbulent world we're in right now.
So it's very interesting because you thought about the geopolitical question is so complex. And as we heard in the morning about the Prime Minister thought about the three kind of maps in the fall. So it's the Asian perspective, American perspective, of Europe perspective. Always is good question is who is in the middle of the map. And the other things I think is, you know, as I told geographers, geography is a destiny. I can't tell geopolitics is a destiny because how the Governor Matocci told about the three super mega trends, the climate change, technological singularity and the effect of the geopolitics will be of the main question. So my book is always writing about you need about the three passwords about the complexity, sustainability, and connectivity. And about speaking about the geopolitics, about connectivity, I think of the best example of the Turkey, Istanbul. There is a bridge, only one bridge in the world is a connect of the two continents together. The Bosporus Bridge is a symbol of the connecting of the... Yeah, of course, a three bridge, but it's the first bridge is a connect about the Asia and Europe. And I've got the jacket, so one packet is written here in Europe, and here is Asia, and Istanbul is like a Zipzar, so it's like the connecting point. So, Ambassador EKŞIOİSLU, I want to ask about the Turkey position. There's a main bridge between East and West, is a unique role of the Eurasian stability. So what is the diplomatic initiative that could initiate for the regional stability, and how can Turkey leverage a position, the constructive between Europe, Asia, and Middle East? And one more question, because I know that you are the coordinator, the main coordinator of the every years of the Antalya Diplomatic Forum. So it's like similar of the Budapest Eurasia Forum. So this kind of the constructive dialogue, so should be the priorities promoting of the peace and understanding.
If you are located in the middle of a rather turbulent area like Turkey, you feel also direct consequences of those conflicts. And that's why you are creating a certain reflex to be vigilant of geopolitics. By the way, we have been told since primary school that Turkey is a bridge between East and West, and Turkey is a bridge country. But personally, I don't like this rhetoric. Why? Because bridges are stable. Bridges do not move. They do not change. They are just static. But when you consider Turkish foreign politics, foreign policy, it is multidimensional, it's proactive. And with 261 missions abroad, after US and China, Turkey has the third diplomatic missions network in the world. And that's why I would rather consider Turkey as the easternmost west and westernmost east country. I guess this will define Turkey's current geopolitical position also much better than just being a bridge. And I believe regional ownership is crucial for regional stability. And then we see, as you also mentioned, Mr. Wang as well, the current multilateral platforms are not addressing the current challenges. That's why regional organizations are getting more importance. And that's why Turkey is giving huge importance. You name it, Black Sea Economic Cooperation, you name Organization of Turkic States, where also Hungary is an observer member since 2018, because the regional organizations can find regional solutions too. And peace and stability needs constant effort and also concentration. That's why this is for us very important. For example, mediation for peace is another brand from Turkish Foreign Ministry, and we give huge importance to promote mediation for peace also in all international organizations like UN, like OIC, like OCE. So it is for us very important that we are facilitating and also being mediator and facilitator in the current conflicts. For example, also coming to anti-diplomacy forum as well, we were able to bring from Ukraine and Russia both foreign ministers together in Antalya just 2 weeks after the war started in March 2022 under the margins of Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Just a couple of weeks later in Istanbul, both negotiation teams were very close even to exchange texts each other. And then, thanks to the grain deal, we were able to bring 33 million tons of grains from the ports of Ukraine to the rest of the world to be able to avoid the food crisis. Or the nuclear talks with the International Atomic Agency between Rosatom in Istanbul, or prisoners exchange. These are very important initiatives that we initiated. And coming back to Budapest Eurasia Forum and Antalya Diplomacy Forum, they created a new partnership recently. That's why I'm also here. Just besides being the Turkish ambassador in Budapest, as you mentioned, I'm one of the coordinators of the ADF. This is an important platform initiative of Turkish Foreign Ministry. Besides digital diplomacy and Asia, a new initiative, we have 3 important landmarks as a Turkish Foreign Ministry. And ADF is an important platform. Just last year, in the last edition, not last year, this year in March, we were able to bring almost 5,000 people from 148 countries. This is important because it's a platform that people can come and talk and exchange ideas, just come together. And for me, one of the satisfying moments were when all bilateral rooms were booked. You know, just because you see, there people are just not coming to just talk in the panel, but to be able to come together and to have a certain dialogue channels open. This is very important. I mean, as diplomats, it's of course our job to talk. Our job is also to be able to provide platforms that people can come, exchange views. Of course, we cannot agree on everything, but at least to agree on disagreement is an important step. So looking forward to have you all in April for the next edition in Antalya, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I agree, because how is the platform important? How is networks important? How is hubs important? So, for example, in Turkey or Dubai or Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, so it's always, you know, it's like me of the hub, and the people's connection is important. Have to change about the minds and good idea. So for next question to Professor Harry Wang, I want to ask about the era of the shifting power structures, exciting the global governance institution adequately address the need emerging power. So what reform might be necessary, ensure that influential reflect today's for the geopolitical realities, given the rise of the new economic hubs? Do you see about the defining of geopolitical challenge for the next decade?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that what the ambassador mentioned is a very good example. You see how these middle powers are playing an instrumental role now. I'm very glad to report your foreign minister, Minister Fireside, was in my office this year. In May, we had a very good, we signed a memorandum for Antalya diplomatic forum. We'll be there next April. So what I think actually, we are in such a turbulent world now, and mid-powers, countries like Turkey, like Hungary, and can play enormous role. And Global South and China and Brazil, for example, we have proposed 6 points for the Ukraine-Russian war actually going on right now. So what I'd like to see, actually, you see what are the new players, new instrument or new clubs system. I really see this Global South can play a more active role. That's you can see why BRICS actually doubled this year, and then there's another 30, 40 countries lined up to join. Of course, you have countries like Turkey, you have Hungary and Singapore. You have many. You see all those mid-powers starting to play more active role now. I was quite inspired by what Prime Minister Viktor Orban this morning. I mean, he's a good friend of President Trump. Now we have a President Trump in power now. He's a good friend of President Xi, of course, also President Putin, and of course European leaders. So I'm sure why can't Hungary play more role in terms of mediating peace on that? And of course I also see that I'm sure when President Trump comes up, this war probably is going to be coming to some certain peaceful negotiating stage. What President Trump advisor said, okay, his proposal is that Ukraine 20 years not join NATO. And then those middle disputed area, let's have a buffer zone and have France, Polish, German to stay there. But I think, you know, that may not work. Just you know, I don't think Russia would just let a NATO country troops there. So what if China? You know, China is actually a large peacekeeping sending force among the United Nations security member countries. So if China actually get more involved on that, I think there could be a possibility to make you know, more peace, because China is the largest trading partner of both Russia and Ukraine. So there's many things I think we have to work together. That's why I'm seeing you're asking where the new momentum comes from. I really see China, Turkey, Brazil, Hungary, Singapore, you know, all those countries can play enormous role. You know, these BRICS countries can do that. So you actually see some healthy competition now. The old system doesn't work that well. Then the new system is not coming up yet. Yet there's a healthy competition to really, for example, China proposed Belt and Road Initiative. Right? I mean, then nobody realized there's a huge gap on the infrastructure for the developing countries. But China proposed that. Then you see U.S. follow up with Build Back Better World, B3W. You see the EU follow up with you know, EU Global Gateway, and you see India follow up with Indian Middle East Europe corridor. So that's a good thing. That's great geography, because you know, if China is starting doing something that healthily stimulate the competition for the developing countries. And I also see this climate, green power transition as well. China was blamed in the past that you are too much wasting, you're too much polluted. Now they are doing better. Now it's too green. You're going too fast, over capacity now. So you see, I think we need to really have a better narrative, better international discussion. And then I really see this, this Eurasia Forum is so relevant. That's why I was talking to Walter this morning during the break. He said we should have a Budapest consensus. I mean, that's really, we should get more of those kind of mid-power voices coming up, and then China can really be on the side for all those good initiatives.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Wang. I agree, because how is important to make for the collaboration deeper. And I know it's about the geopolitics, and even about the geopolitics future, there's so many interesting things about energy, supply chains, deeper cooperation between the countries. But how I see at times we have only of the last questions for the focusing. And the main theme for this conference this year of the 5th Budapest Eurasia Forum, the keyword of success, the talent, knowledge, technology, and capital. And it's very interesting about the cycles. If you speak about the long-term cycles, around the last 500 years, those nations rising to transform the money into the capital, invented and introduced the new technology to help the broad section society to gain knowledge and the raise of the talents. And today, the same 4 factors is a source for success, the curricular difference in order the reserved instead of the capital driving technology, knowledge, talent, but no, it's a talent drive to the other 3. So how do you see the role of the 4 elements, talents, know, capital, technology, and the geopolitical future? And even the first about the focusing, for example, about the science diplomacy by the Turkey side.
You are spot on the role of talents and skills on today's knowledge-based industries and highly interconnected economies. I believe capital is no longer at the driving seat when you would like to have a change and success. So definitely they are very important key elements. And when you think about science diplomacy, diplomacy, every version, every type of it, we are not immune to the changes of the current geopolitics that we are facing all with. And diplomacy is no longer conducted behind closed doors. Now, everyone has a part of it. Now, what we have learned in the 2000s or in the 1990s, how we did diplomacy is completely changed. Now, we are talking about gastro diplomacy, we are talking about sports diplomacy or science diplomacy. This year we had with Hungary the Year of Culture. We were able to promote Turkish culture everywhere in Hungary. Next year it will be more future-oriented, and we declared 2025 as the Year of Science and Innovation, so that we could promote, and it will be more future-oriented with startups, with research institute, with universities, because we believe definitely we should train, first of all, the current talents that we have, and we all should be able to promote the skilled personnel and skilled people. Because for mobilizing talent and knowledge, I guess this is one of the important items for everyone in this room, the mobilizing, because it is a significant initiative with scientific diplomacy to explore further cooperation areas to drive a change. And that's why the science diplomacy underlines the role of knowledge and talents and skills to find new solutions to the new global challenges and new global problems that we're all sharing.
Thank you very much. Henry?
Yeah, no, I remember, that Rachel Florida actually have the 3T theory, talent, technology, and tolerance, which I think they made a book into Chinese. I wrote a preface for that. But I would like to add transparency also. I think if you really want to attract talents, you really have to be transparent and then let people really... I mean, these days there's too much barriers, there's too much security, there's too overemphasize of security, and there's too much decoupling going on. So I think global talent mobility is really the driving forces. We have the goods movement, we have the capital movement, we have the talent movement. Now the talent movement is having setbacks. Now we have anti-immigration, all those things. So for example, because of the U.S. policy, the Chinese student going to the U.S. is dropping now. India has taken over China as the largest student sending country to the United States. So that's unfortunate. But really, I really see that that we really need a good policy. We need a tolerant. We need a really technology coupled with that AI. it's all talent related. And of course, transparency. We have to really make it more transparent how we can treat those talents and how we can really welcome them. So if we're doing this 4T theory, let's improve on that. We could have a better environment for talent.
Thank you very much. And I think yes, of course, geopolitics is very important, will be the future. And I think geopolitics will be the base for geography. And even if we are focusing of the success of the future, I think it's 3 words, nature, culture, future. And the future, it means about the talents, knowledge, capital, and technology together. Nature, it means about the sustainability. And the culture, of course, it means like the complexity and the national, the mind by the cultures will be very important. So her ambassador and President Henry, thank you very much for his very fascinating fireside chat. Time is over now, but I think we can continue for later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cizmadia, and dear speakers, for this brilliant discussion. It was a valuable experience to hear your conversation. Now it is time to move to the panel discussion. Therefore, let me invite Mr. Tamás Baranyi, the moderator of the panel. Mr. Baranyi is the Director for Strategy of the Hungarian Institute of International Affairs. His research areas are the history of the United States and the Cold War, foreign political strategy, and transatlantic relations. Welcome. I would also like to invite our panelists to the stage. First, please welcome Mr. Ralph Emmers, Professor in International Politics of East Asia and co-chair of the Center for International Studies and Diplomacy of the University of London. Mr. Emmers was previously the Dean of the Rajaratnam School of International Studies and President's Chair in International Relations of Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. His research interests cover security studies, international institutions, in the Indo-Pacific and the security and international politics of Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for joining us today. Our second esteemed panelist is Mr. Suu-Kyi Han, President of the Institute for National Security Strategy and Professor at Yonsei University. Mr. Han previously served as the Dean of Graduate School of International Studies at Yonsei University and as the Consul General of the Republic of Korea in Shanghai, China. His main research area includes Chinese security and foreign relations, China's power politics, and South Korea-China relations. Mr. Suu-Kyi Han, welcome. And I am also pleased to invite on stage Mr. Thi Kuo Thia, Professor and former Dean of the School of International Studies of Peking University. Mr. Thia is also the Director of the Institute for Global Cooperation and Understanding and the Director of Global Governance at Peking University. He is also a member of the Standing Committee of the 14th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. Welcome, Mr. Thia. Distinguished speakers, thank you for being with us today. Let's hear the discussion.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introductions. I think without further ado, we should start this conversation because we have like 60 minutes, and the question of this panel, which is the future of geopolitics, geopolitics of the future, is like a conference-long speech. So I think we should really try to be succinct and quick because I prepared with tons of questions. But I think to begin with, we should really make a very general question in order to have a deeper understanding of your outlook on the whole topic. So it is conventional wisdom that the balance of world political powers are shifting, and this involves a diffusion of power from traditional centers of power to other parts of the world, which may be termed as multipolarity, multipolarization, but there are a set of other forces at play. How would you characterize the most important features of the new international system that unfolds before our eyes? And I propose to have a circle from the other way. So, Mr. Thia, can you please begin with your answer?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I think the new international system is more characterized by geopolitical fighting, confrontation between China and the US especially. And of course, you have the old type of security issues more dominant at the moment. And secondly, I think the international order has been changing in the sense that less importance is attached to the Western agenda, like human rights, democracy, and more importance attached to some more universal values, such as sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the right to development. Okay. And finally, I think the so-called new international order is, I think people are less optimistic about the future. Unlike 2 decades ago when people were euphoric about the future, and now I think there is greater sense of pessimism. Maybe this is a symptom of transition from old order to a new order.
Pessimism or realism, if I may ask? Pessimism or realism?
Well, these two terms are interrelated. I think if you are realistic, you are bound to be a little bit more pessimistic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sukihan.
As you said, it's a conventional wisdom in academia. The rise of the decline of the great power and the rise of the small powers and new patterns of the international politics. I agree with that, but I think if we're talking about the reality, the decline of the great power is true, but how much decline, that is important. And then how much the small powers, they rise. I think it's a little premature to talking about the shift of international politics or shift of the international structure. So, for example, we just, for about a month ago, we just too much focus on the election of the Donald Trump in the United States. Why we have to focus on that? Because still United States has power. We tend to talking that U.S. power is declining, but still U.S. has a power, so we have to keep eye on that one. And also, we have witnessed that the decline of the UN, decline of WTO, decline of old international system. At the same time, we are watching the rise of BRICS and rise of some other collaboration of the powers. But that doesn't mean that the new powers or new collaboration powers would command the international politics yet. So I think, in my opinion, I think it is true that the shift of international politics is going on, but it's a little premature to talking about the structural change.
So it's shifting, but like tectonically, which is not only great, but very slow. Mr. Emmers, how would you follow up?
Thank you very much. Let me start by thanking the organizers. It's my first visit to Budapest, and I'm very much enjoying it. I think one point is clear. The post-Cold War era is over. The post-Cold War era was characterized by US dominance, which provided the United States with great room for maneuver around the world. Well, that period is probably coming to an end. However, there are two possible scenarios ahead of us, and I think it's too soon to determine which path we will take. One is the idea of a bipolar world, where we will see a concentration of power around the United States and China. And there are some indicators that we are moving in this direction. I, for instance, do believe that the US power remains very, very significant. The US is self-sufficient in energy terms. Its economy is actually doing remarkably well, and so on. We should also keep in mind that a bipolar world historically is more stable, especially when the two poles agree on common rules and principles. A second scenario, which is perhaps emerging, is one of a multipolar world, where not so much the international institutions, because I do fully agree that they are weakening, but where we see the emergence of a series of middle powers or secondary powers, Indonesia, India, Turkey, Nigeria, Brazil, who are now increasingly able to adopt a multi-directional foreign policy, aligning or siding with one side on some issues while perhaps adopting a more non-independent, a more non-aligned position on other issues. So I think it is too early to tell right now whether it's going to be one scenario or the other, but these are, I would argue, the two most likely possibilities.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy that two of you mentioned the role of middle powers, because my upcoming question is about them, because it's not only major countries who try to position themselves in this unfolding system, but there is also a greater elbow room for small and medium-sized countries who try to find their own way, and their own way might be integration or forming new formats of international cooperation, because they're still small to medium-sized. And my question would be, how do you see, is this the future? Is this, there would be a proliferation, let's say, of international alignments, international formats, like the organization of Turkic states that proved to be much more, how to say, much quicker to develop than it was anticipated. And now it's an important tool for Central Asian and Caucasian powers and Turkey to cooperate. Or you have BRICS, which is often criticized for not being institutionalized, but also it's expanding. So how do you see, is this the way forward, that small to medium-sized countries will have their own international, let's say, organizations or alignments or formats? Now, what if we go the other way around? So, Mr. Emmers, what is your take on these questions?
I certainly see a real possibility of that scenario panning out, especially at the regional level. I think middle powers tend to have most influence as regional powers within their immediate neighborhoods. You see this in the case of Turkey, clearly. You see this in the case of Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, and so on. Whether they will be able to play a global role, I think here the jury is still out. And it will partly depend on how China-US relations evolve. I think if they become even more competitive, it will become even harder for the middle powers to navigate such disputed waters, shall we say, between the two great powers. And they may be forced from time to take sides. For instance, I haven't mentioned his name yet, but I suspect President-elect Trump will have little patience with countries taking non-aligned positions. And if, again, we see further competition between China and Japan and the US, which is likely, if not at least possible, then I think it will make it easier for such countries to try to contribute internationally.
Before I pass the word around, may I have a follow-up question? Because last year, the book of Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar was published in Hungarian, and one of the most striking thoughts that I found in it was how difficult it is to make global politics for a regional power that is used to play a regional role, but not a global role, and how conceptually, like theoretically, is very hard to build up such a thinking. So, do you have an experience on this when talking with people from those regional power countries?
Absolutely, and very briefly, I think that is really the distinction between a regional middle power and a great power. To be able to make that jump from having regional influence to global influence, and so far the the evidence seems to suggest that most of the middle powers I've mentioned are predominantly focused on their immediate regions. This is where they have the greatest impact. It's also essential for those middle powers to be recognized by their neighbors as leaders. And that we know is not always the case. Their immediate role can also be disputed within their own neighborhoods, making it even harder for them to project power at the global level.
Thank you, Mr. Han, with the original question.
Yes. The dominance of traditional power is waning. So small and mid-sized countries, they tend to get together. For example, in East Asia and Southeast Asia, 10 countries, they try to get together very tightly, and they want to include China, Korea, and Japan. And that would be one of the case. And another one is some countries in Southeast Asia on Korean Peninsula, and they want to contact with Korea and Japan. We want to cooperate each other and very tightly. And recently, another phenomenon is unprobability or unpredictability between the two big countries, United States and China. And that gives other countries, small and mid-sized countries, more possibility to cooperate each other. For example, AUKUS is one of the case. And then Korea, Japan, and Korea and Japan, United States, the cooperation would be another case. In other extreme, the Russia, China, and North Korean cooperation is another case, because in this perspective, two countries, they are unpredictable. So these countries, they tend to cooperate each other.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tia.
Well, I think middle powers can always play a role. But the problem is playing a role carries some consequences. So it's a matter of whether the middle powers can have the courage to play a role, even when it comes to issues, their interests are at stake. For example, between China and the US, the one role the middle power can play is to stick neutral, right? You don't need to side with anybody to exacerbate the conflicts. If you play the neutral, you have more diplomatic room. But of course, if the US comes to you and say, you have to stand by my side, what are you going to do? So ultimately, it's a matter of courage and political will. And of course, you always face domestic opposition and support at the same time. Another thing is, most of the middle powers have a vested interest in the relationship with both the superpowers. Okay, and of course, you don't want to sacrifice those interests. Okay, so that also makes it give you the need to resist the pressure from taking side. I think that's one way to play a role. Another way is the middle powers can always come up with ideas, initiatives. If they are good, then they can always rally other countries together and then make such kind of ideas acceptable to the broader international community, even when the superpowers do not like those ideas. And of course, finally, I think the middle powers can always, try to work with each other and develop some kind of a coalition to defend their interests and advocate what they believe to be right. Okay, so they have room to play a role, but of course, it can involve a lot of interest, calculation, and also courage.
Thank you very much. I sent some of the questions for you beforehand, but I think I changed the order now because it seems logical to ask about the president-elect of the United States at this point. So how do you see Donald Trump's victory at the previous elections, what changes it may bring about for the international system, because it's still the United States, and it's not only a political victory at an elections. That's a wholly different foreign policy concept, which is partly hidden, partly secret, because it is often told that surprise will be a key element to it. So, what are the expectations, Mr. Emmers?
I think the first misconception is perhaps to assume that a second Trump administration will look like the first Trump administration. It's important to remember that back in 2016, Donald Trump did not expect to win. And he was actually surprised to win. And you could see this very clearly during the preparation of his administration, which was rather chaotic. And ultimately, we then spent 4 years, which were perhaps, depending on which part of the world you're referring to, where perhaps you had more continuity rather than change. I think that's going to be fundamentally different this time around. Trump did expect to win. He is clearly better prepared than 8 years ago, and he is clearly better prepared in terms of his nominations. We may or may not like them, but we see clearly an indication of a transformative element. And that's going to be sensed at all levels, whether it's migration, trade, the role of international institutions, the role of alliances. I think it's going to be particularly complex for the friends of the United States, more than it might be for traditional adversaries of the United States. And so I think we need to be prepared for quite fundamental changes. Now, let's have one example. People argue, well, the United States will not leave NATO. So what difference does it make? Well, it's true. The United States is very unlikely to leave NATO simply because this would require fundamental changes, and we can assume that there will be inertia in the administration, making such a transformation unlikely. But it's enough for the deterrence credibility of the United States to be questioned by the president himself, Article 5, for the entire nature of NATO to be transformed. And so I think here we need to buckle up and be prepared for what could be a transformative period of 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Han, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, election of Trump gives us a lot of concern and also opportunity. But opportunity is very small and concern is pretty much from Korean perspective. And this year, we expected that the election of Trump, election of the United States would be a very important thing. So we try to visit Washington, D.C. frequently. And we tend to contact with the Trump-related people. But unfortunately, if we take a look at who's going to end the government, then nobody was contacted. So it was disappointing. But at this moment, if we make the Trump relationship as opportunity, then we have to contact with Trump as soon as possible. And we have to make a good relationship with Trump. So one of the recommendations I made to my president that you have to play golf. And you have to go to Mar-a-Lago first, and then you have to play golf with the Trump. And if your golf is not that good, then you have to accompany with one of the Korean female golf player, and then you have to cope with him. That was maybe if that is possible, then Trump is personally, he wants to make this kind of nation-to-nation relationship based on his personal relationship. So we try to hit that point, and then we can make some kind of advantage of relationship. But I think Trump, he wants to say that he's kind of unconventional leadership style. He's America first, and he is MAGA, Make America Great Again, and he has a lot of his propaganda. But as a Korean person, we want to approach him. He wants to input a lot of pressure upon the Korean government based on American first. So he wants to say that Korea is a rich country, so you have to pay more because American military is there and the American action is there, so you have to pay more. Then the first government period, the Korean people, we were scared about that one. But now we just learned a lot and we want to approach that one. Okay, we will pay the money, but at the same time, we want to request something, what we want. That is a transactional relationship. So we learned how to play a transactional relationship with Trump. That is at the current snapshot situation. Second we are concerning of is Trump might meet with Kim Jong-un. That is a traumatic case that we are facing with. Just in case if he meets with Trump, Kim Jong-un, and if he just allow maybe the North Korea might be a nuclear country, then that will be disaster to us. In that case, we want to request that we want to develop our own nuclear. Those kind of things would be transactional. So as a small, middle-sized country, the Korea is learning how to adjust to the transactional relationship. That's a hope side. And that make our concern to the hope side.
Thank you very much. May I have a follow-up question on this? So you said Korea adjusts it herself to Trump's policies, personal diplomacy and transactionalism, which also means that other countries may follow the example of the politics of the U.S. president. Do you think that in this case, personal diplomacy and transactionalism can be a new model for other countries between the bilateral relation, or it will be more US and other countries?
I think this country, Prime Minister Orban was pretty smart. He already met with Trump twice. So many countries, they just looking at the Prime Minister Orban's activities. And then we just saw modeling after Abe's cases. So I think there is a personal transactional relationship or personal relationship with Trump is very distinctive to any single countries. So if anybody, we cannot make a generalize this kind of relationship. So maybe it depends on any country's leadership, how they deal with Trump. That is a key question to every country, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, yeah.
Well, I think Trump, as policy, we more or less know what's he's likely to do. Okay, during the first administration, the first part is very different from the second part. Right, the second part more reflects his future part, future administration's policy. Okay. During the first part of his first administration, he hired, because it was an accidental victory, he hired people from Wall Street and the military. Okay. He hired people from the Wall Street because he was marginalized by the business community because of his business deals. And he did not have a lot of respect. And now he tries to show to others that, I'm the best. So, and then he hired the military because the military takes orders. But during the second part of his administration, he hired the people of the like-minded people of him. So basically, in trade policy, it's protectionism, right? Sheer protectionism. The US used to advocate for free trade, and later on, because it's becoming less efficient, it advocates fair trade, and now it's outright protectionism. Okay, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to sanction you. Okay, and then unilateralism. Okay, we're not going to listen to what you say. We just do according to our interests. America first. Okay, we don't care what you think about these things. We are going to do this anyway. Okay, so this is very different from the traditional American foreign policy perspective. That is, you need to take a long-term perspective. You have to listen to the views of others. So these two are going to characterize the new administration's policies, foreign policies. Whether you like it or not, confronted with this kind of situation, what are you going to do? Okay, you have two choices. You try to adapt to change yourself, and curry his favor, or you stand up against the so-called unreasonable approach or demands. Okay, I think it's time for countries to make up their minds, whether it's in their interest to bow and to kowtow to him, to his unreasonable demands, or to stand up to him and say, this is wrong, we're not going to do it. Okay? You have to do it right for us to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. But I really have to have another question for you as well. So what do you think about the idea of Mr. Han that it's also opportunity for small and medium countries? Let's say maybe the Chinese perspective is different, but it's not only concern what you just described very well, but also opportunities, because transactionalism may have perks for small and medium-sized countries.
Well, it's in our interest to have free trade. It's in our interest to have multilateral cooperation to deal with various kinds of global challenges. It is our interest to follow the rules of international community. So, if we stand up against abuse, then we have a chance. Okay, if we don't even have a chance to defend our interests and our wishes.
Thank you very much. And before we go very political, I think a zoom out question. There is a time for a zoom out question on the nature of the future of geopolitics. So all that we said, personal diplomacy, transactionalism, the enhanced great power rivalry has the aura of the 19th century, right? But technology and the so-called Industrial Revolution 5.0 may also play a huge role in the future of geopolitics, which is not very much 19th century stuff. How do you see, would it have a transformative effect on geopolitics of who, how, and why develops technology and how they use it? So, Mr. Emmers, what are your thoughts?
First, something to remember, if we had been in Budapest 20 years ago, I think the word geopolitics would probably not have been mentioned, because by then we would have thought that we had gone beyond 19th century geopolitical competition, and we were now predominantly facing threats coming from non-state actors. And so it's remarkable how quickly geopolitics has come back to the fore. But I may push back a little bit on your question, because I think technology and geopolitics have always been tied together. Great powers, ultimately great powers, not just because of their accumulation of military capabilities, but also as a result of their technological advancements. I do not believe that the United Kingdom could have had and developed such a large empire without first going through the Industrial Revolution. Likewise, the United States would probably not have been such a dominant power post-Second World War if it had not first developed nuclear capabilities. Doing so by bringing together the best scientists from the United States, but also many of them from Europe and around the world. So I think the idea that we are living in a completely different era, although it's probably human nature to believe that we all live in exceptional times, I think if you look at history, the connections between great power rivalry and the importance of technology has historically been there. Now, in all fairness, not wanting to sound completely archaic, yes, of course, we are facing an incredible acceleration of the importance of technology, and this may indeed change the balance of power. But sadly, at the moment, it doesn't look like technology is helping soften this great power competition. If anything, it seems to accelerate this great power competition. So here, perhaps, there is a positive correlation between great power competition on the one hand and the search for the acquisition of particular types of technology on the other.
I'd like to more focus on kind of a big power competition in terms of technology. And technology is became very important part, just like a military power, economic power before. I think technology, if you have technology, you have possibility to go up to great power. If you don't have it, then you have no chance to go up to great power. I think technology is one very important dimension of national power. And that's why, so big powers, they want to compete each other for the acquirement of technology. So that kind of technological competition is we are seeing between United States and China. So U.S. wants to have its own technology, and then it wants to deter the Chinese development technology. That's why we are seeing, we are watching the sanctions and decoupling. It's an ongoing process right now. Another thing is I'd like to more point out the weaponization of technologies. So we've seen the cyber warfare and cyber attack or espionage. Those kind of things are rampant in the society. So many countries, they try to protect their own self from this kind of a potential cyber attack or espionage. And third one is the role of data. Data is very important. I think United States and China, they are the biggest country to collect the biggest data in their own country. So I think many countries, they try to compete with those big powers or big companies to compete with the data. Maybe Google is a big company to hold the data, and other the big companies or the organization, they try to rule the data sovereignty. Final mention is technological alliance. So many countries, they try to be forming their own alliance for the technology. For example, the chip for United States, Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. These four countries, they try to get together to make their own war against the other countries for forming and to just keeping their own preference or kind of prestigious level of their own on technological development. I think in that perspective, Korea is, even though Korea is a mid-sized country, but we are going to be a developed country. But our country, we developed and we try to establish and maintain this kind of status based on technology. So Taiwan is another country to keeping their own status based on technology. But recently, many people say that Taiwan's TSMC cannot protect Taiwan's future. But still, Taiwanese people, they believe that TSMC is one of their buttresses for their security.
Well, I just want to add that I think it's not just in other countries' interest to resist unreasonable demands from the US, from the Trump administration, but also in the US interest for other countries to do so. I think a reasonable policy should be supportive by international society rather than at their expense. In terms of technology and geopolitics relationship, I think, first of all, I think development of technology can be used by the great powers to achieve a competitive advantage. You know, that's why we can have arms race. Okay? Arms race, an important part of that is technological competition. Yeah, and then we have another aspect to it, that is weaponization of technology in a different sense. I mean, of civilian technologies, like internet. We try to make good use of internet to collect information illegally, and also to use the internet to attack and collect information, to attack other countries' internet infrastructure. And finally, I think there is another aspect to it, that is over-securitization of technological trade and international cooperation on technologies. At the moment, especially against the background of geopolitical competition, there is growing emphasis in all countries, in many countries, when it comes to technological cooperation. Everything is national security, right? And as a result, we see a process of technological decoupling, and also significant reduction of cross-national technological cooperation. Okay. China and the US had an agreement on technological cooperation for decades, and now I think it's likely to discontinue. And of course, China has technological cooperation with many other countries, with the US as well. And now our technological cooperation with the US is basically being undermined, discontinued in many areas. Okay, and of course, under US pressure, US allies' cooperation with China in technological cooperation has also been, under siege, undermined in the process. So this is a sad story for the future. Okay, if we don't work together, we may not come up with the technologies in time for us to avoid some disasters, such as pandemic, such as climate change, and others. Okay, so how can we overcome that? I think that's a question that we should think about it very seriously.
I have to ask back. So when you said, I completely agree, of course, that there is this national securitization of international trade going on. What do you think, in most of the cases, it is really about national security or market protection when those elements of trade are securitized? So are they do it because some of the technological units may prove to be a threat to national security, or the aim is to create different standards and thus, a protection for the domestic market so the competitors will not break in?
Well, I think there are two kinds of situations. One is, the ban of certain technological products, import of certain technological products, because of suspicions of potential security problem, like ban of Huawei products in Europe under U.S. pressure. Okay, I mean the British and the Germans have conducted various kinds of tests to find out, whether there are security loopholes in Huawei products. They did not find any, but then they banned Huawei products anyway. Okay, on suspicion and also under U.S. pressure. Okay. Well, the second is when it comes to trade. I think on technological trade, the U.S. has been talking about small yard, high fences. Okay, but actually the yard has become larger and larger. Okay, that's one problem. With Trump coming in, I think the yard will become even much larger. And when and trade of other commodities, the U.S. has been saying that this is a security problem, supply chain security. So they have been demanding other countries are demanding companies to invest to invest production to move their production outside China, at least part of their production outside China, to ensure so-called friendshoring and what's friendshoring and another one. But anyway, basically to ensure the so-called supply chain security, so that in case of war and confrontation, that China will not be able to cut supply to the U.S. That's the assumption. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think I get the idea, but it's a very interesting topic. But we should move on because it's wonderful. But we only have like 12 minutes left. My upcoming question is about still technology, because the emergence of new technologies highlight new types of resources, like rare earth minerals, for instance, semiconductors, but also it highlights the importance of human capital. So what do you think would the great power rivalry that sets in today will entail a world in which there is more race to resources, including human resources? What is your take, Mr. Emmers?
Well, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think I will go back to what my original point was, which is to what extent is that new? Great powers used to compete for access to hydrocarbon resources, for instance. Likewise, great powers have always competed for attracting the best and the brightest to come to their universities, to come to their research centers. So the idea, again, that we are living in a completely new paradigm is something that I would very gently dispute and argue that this is the kind of behavior that we have seen from the great powers in historical terms. Of course, again, I will admit that there might be an element of acceleration at the moment, but those resources and access to resources have traditionally guided the behavior of great powers precisely to preserve their status of great powers.
Can it have like a geographical impact, like, Central Africa has a lot of...
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, taking it from that way, it does look like the Middle East is likely to become less and less important. If we become less and less dependent on hydrocarbon resources, it's possible that geopolitical competition will move to parts of the world that have not, which are not as clearly indicated and highlighted by the international media, for instance. Yes, depending on the sources that great powers will compete over, it's possible that their competition will therefore geographically move from one part to the other.
Thank you.
This is a matter of dependency. So great power, they do not want to depend on other countries on critical matters, critical materials. So, but I'd like to talk about Korea's cases. Korea is a very capable country in terms of electric vehicles and also batteries and also semiconductors. But in order to make those kind of products, we need the supplies and critical minerals, the lithium, cobalt, nickel, rare earth elements. We tend to import those kind of materials from China, and very nearby and very easy to get. But recently, Korean, especially after the DOT controversies, Korean companies, they are reluctant to depend on China much. So we try to find out alternative areas to procure those kind of materials, but it's not that easy. So it's dependency issues for Korea. So we try to find out that even recently we tried to contact with the Mongolia. And Mongolia they have a lot of capacity of this kind of rare earth materials and then critical minerals. But Mongolia is also very much politically dependent on China. So it's nothing different. So it's a critical problem for Korea right now. So we try to diversify our own source of those kind of critical minerals.
I really have to have an annoying question. So I understand that national security is important from the state's perspective, but for the company's perspective, like profit is the first. And what were your experience? How did you see the Korean companies, internalized the concern for national security as opposed to having the material in the cheapest and most and shortest way?
It's a little different from the national security. The Korean companies, they just invest into China very much. But in 2016, all of a sudden, they got inflicted by the DOT controversy. It's a political risk. So they got experienced the political risk. So they are reluctant to invest in China because China is not a safer market for them. And also, they are kind of be careful, very, very careful about transactions with China. Because something may happen, political risk may happen, that they might directly inflict it over to their interest. So that's a company's decision making, not the national security issues.
I think China should learn a lesson on this. I think in the 21st century, attraction of talents or competition for talents should be part of this international pursuit of power or leadership. But then for domestic political reasons, some countries like the US are doing the opposite to some extent, as Mr. Wang talked about in the last session, that because of the US restrictions or threatened restrictions, Chinese students going to the US to study have dropped in number. I think with the ascent of the Trump administration, I think there will be further drops in the future, because during the latter part of his last term, there were rumors that he would send all the Chinese students and scholars back to China in the U.S. So one of my students in the U.S. got really worried at the time. So, but I don't think that would change the whole picture. I think the great powers, in their pursuit of eminence, they would continue to try to attract talents. This is going to be, especially in this age of technological advancement. And if you stay ahead in technology, you gain advantage in terms of power and influence. So I think the game will be the same, but it's a matter of how you play with it in terms of individual countries for all kinds of reasons, including domestic politics.
Thank you very much. And I also prepared some personal questions for you in your more specific fields, but we don't really have time for that because we are a little over 3 minutes left. But I was inspired by Mr. Han, who already gave an advice to Korean leaders to learn how to golf. And I was wondering if there is any advice that you can give to anyone, decision makers or just those who study geopolitics, about the future of geopolitics. So what are the things that we should not skip, we should pay attention to in the coming years when it comes to geopolitics? And again, Mr. Emmers.
Well, there is a joke in Southeast Asia, which is in the context of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is you better hang together, otherwise you will hang separately. And I think this applies very much to different regions of the world today. I think whether it's Europe, whether it's Southeast Asia, whether it's other parts perhaps, coming together and having a sense of vision and a strategy on how to navigate what will be an uncertain period is probably the advice that I would give. So come together, discuss, and come up with a common strategy and vision on how to address the challenges to come.
If I recommend any decision maker, then first of all, know yourself. You have to understand ourselves first, and then based on ourselves, we have to expand to other countries. For example, Korea is too much so far for 3-4 decades. We too much focus on Korean Peninsula. So many countries in the world they try to perceive Korea as a very selfish, and they just limit themselves on the only Korean Peninsula. So now it's time for us to expand to other countries. So this morning I just listened to the Prime Minister Orban's lecture. I think I learned a lot. I learned a lot. His perception to the world and his idea, his leadership. I just learned a lot. So I'd like to recommend my leaders that we have to have our own perspective toward the world, and that we have to prepare for ourselves to expand and to kind of mutually benefited way of communication, and also we have to be a good member of international system.
Well, depending on who you are middle power or small power or big power. I mean, your strategy can be different. But basically, I agree that we are all weaker than the U.S. individually. So if we can band together, then we can tell the U.S. You are wrong, and we are not going to follow your advice this time. But if you are right, then we can work together. Okay? I think that's good for. If we can do that, that's good for the U.S. Good for us. The second thing I want to say is that when you are dealing with a bully, I think concession or surrender is not the best choice in the long run. Okay, because you'll be taken for granted. You'll be asked to give more and more up. I mean, give more up your own interests, and that's not the thing that you want. Okay, for the time being, you may get some made an exception. For example, in terms of tariffs, maybe not you are waived of 10%, but in the long run, I don't think you can. I mean, you also alienate yourself from your peers, and also in the long run you may not get the same kind of compensation. Okay, so I think you need to stand up to your rights and interests. And one way to protect yourself is to band up together with similar countries of similar interests and situations, and then to say, Mr. Trump, maybe this is thing we cannot do. Okay, and if you want something us to do is right, then we will follow your leadership. Okay, I think that's probably better for all countries in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sirs, for your invaluable thoughts. And if you may allow just a short summary for me. So it's stand up for yourself, know yourselves, know the word, hang together and discuss, which all points to come to the Budapest Eurasia Forum and other such events, because this is where we can discuss those things. Thank you very much for taking part in this panel, Mr. Tia, Mr. Han, and Mr. Emmers, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baranyi and dear speakers, for this exceptional discussion. It is really a pleasure to have you here with us in Budapest. Thank you very much. With the closing of our third panel, we have reached the end of the regular program. Our last program will be the ceremonial book launch of the latest edition of the Eurasia volume of studies. This year's publication is titled Eurasianomics, Sustainable and Innovative Economic Policy Strategies in Eurasia. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Barnabás Virág, Deputy Governor of the MNB and editor of this book, to introduce it and share his thoughts. Deputy Governor Virág, welcome. The floor is yours.
So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm excited to extend a heartfelt welcome to you all at the Budapest Eurasia Forum 2025. It's truly an honor to host such distinguished scholars, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and decision makers here in Budapest for the fifth time. The growing attendance each year highlights the significance and relevance of the esteemed symposium. I encourage you to stay with me for the next 10 minutes after today's insightful and stimulating professional panels. This year, in line with our ongoing tradition, a new volume of studies has been compiled in conjunction with the forum. Due to the work of recent years, the publication has been expanded into a series which showcases the Hungarian Central Bank's long-term commitment to enhancing international relations and fostering collaboration throughout Eurasia. The first volume, titled Age of Eurasia, Future Directions of Knowledge, Technology, Money and Sustainable Geoeconomics, was launched at the Budapest Eurasia Forum in 2021. It was succeeded by the second volume, The Future is Now, Eurasian Central Banks at the Forefront of Innovation, which came out in 2022. And the third volume, Geo-Awakenings, Building a Sustainable Future in the Emerging Eurasian Era, released in 2023. We are excited to gather today to celebrate the official launch of this year's Eurasia volume of studies entitled Eurasianomics, Sustainable and Innovative Economic Policy Strategies in Eurasia. In 2024, we are delighted to introduce the Eurasia volume of studies for the fourth year in a row. What is the theme of this year's volume? In 2024, we aim to explore the Eurasian concept from a fresh perspective. The contributors to this volume concentrate on sustainable economic policy, strategies, and initiatives, delving into the essence of sustainable development in the Eurasia. The chapters address critical themes such as sustainable growth, competitiveness, innovation, and technology. Governor Matolcsi emphasized in the foreword of this volume the importance of recognizing when our current path is not leading us to our goals. It's crucial to adapt to changing circumstances, refine our strategies, or even explore entirely new alternatives. We need to identify our key strengths and leverage them to move forward. The quicker we do this, the sooner we can harness the opportunities presented by the Eurasian era that impacts our region. To facilitate the development of effective new strategies, Governor Matolcsi has created a model that focuses on national strengths and characteristics, aiming for success on both regional and global stages. This model encompasses talent, knowledge, technology, and capital, known as the 4T model, based on the Hungarian words tehetség, tudás, technológia és tőke, and can be applied in any country that may not have abundant natural resources but are rich in intellectual assets. As for the 4 pillars of the model, talent is crucial for global economic growth, especially during the current industrial revolution. Investing in industries like renewable energy and technology can lead to a greener economy. Education and training are essential for unlocking economic potential and achieving sustainable development goals. Smaller, innovative economies can thrive by utilizing their high-quality talent. Countries must effectively use their skills and resources for acquiring knowledge to drive the economic growth. Knowledge is vital for adapting the digital era and fostering innovation in sustainable technologies. Investing in human capital can lead to transformative initiatives and international collaboration promoting sustainable economic progress. Technology is crucial for long-term economic sustainability by enabling renewable energy, advanced manufacturing, and smart infrastructure, which can reduce carbon emissions while enhancing productivity. It creates economic opportunities, fosters inclusive growth, and empowers underrepresented communities. Advanced educational technologies support workforce development by equipping individuals with necessary skills for evolving job landscapes. Finally, capital, whether financial or intellectual, drives research and development, enabling investments in cutting-edge technologies that stimulate growth. Investments in renewable energy not only fosters environmental sustainability, but also contributes to the economic development. Human capital plays a crucial role in boosting innovation and productivity, making regions more appealing for sustainable investment. Additionally, the significance of social and institutional capital is vital. Robust and transparent institutions cultivate trust and stability, which in turn attract both domestic and international investments. The 2024 volume explores sustainability as a key theme, underscoring the vital responsibility of national governments and central banks to devise effective and innovative economic policy strategies in diverse nations. The creation of this volume stems from the joint efforts of experts across multiple disciplines, including scholars, policymakers, and business leaders connected to the Eurasian region. It features a rich compilation of 13 Studies segmented into 3 chapters: sustainable growth, competitiveness, and innovation and technology. These chapters address various themes that provide fresh insights into the relationship between sustainability and innovative economic policy strategies in the context of Eurasian countries. The book features contributions from authors affiliated with 11 institutions across 8 different countries, showcasing the extensive international network of the MNB, the Central Bank of Hungary. This book aims to delve into the unique strengths of each Eurasian nation while also addressing the challenges they encounter. I extend my gratitude to all the authors for sharing the invaluable perspectives on a wide range of subjects concerning sustainability and innovative economic policy strategies within the Eurasian framework. Given the geopolitical and economic shifts of the 20th century alongside climate change and demographic changes, Eurasia is poised to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of global community. As a supercontinent, it bridges the West and East, the East and West, in encompassing both developing and emerging countries, as well as countries with a wide array of economic and political frameworks. This evolving world order allows for a broader representation of global society than ever before. The volume aims to tackle the challenges that arise by highlighting the strengths of the involved countries while also gaining insights into their struggles. By bringing together these perspectives of leading experts from China, Germany, Singapore, France, South Korea, the United Arab Emirates, Kazakhstan, and Hungary, we can create a rich and diverse overview of sustainable economic policy strategies throughout Eurasia. The authors possess a comprehensive understanding of the challenges and potential within the Eurasian region. The book aims to offer an in-depth exploration of the area while promoting innovative solutions to its issues. It is intended to be a valuable resource for policymakers, scholars, and business leaders, appealing to a diverse audience. As Hungary embraces its unique role as a multi-hub connecting the West and East, the MNB is aware of the expanding responsibilities that central banks face. Both are united in their commitment to promote sustainable growth in the Eurasian region and to uplift the quality of life for its residents. I would like to encourage everyone to read this outstanding volume, which is available for free in the book corner for our esteemed guests during the event. We believe this publication has expanded our understanding of the latest developments in sustainable and innovative economic policy strategies in Eurasia. Wishing you a highly productive final day of the forum. I sincerely hope that the Budapest Eurasia Forum 2024 brings you fresh insights, diverse perspectives, and valuable networking opportunities. The Magyar Nemzeti Bank, the Central Bank of Hungary, looks forward to cooperating with anyone eager to facilitate the exchange of ideas within Eurasia. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you have a wonderful evening ahead. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor Virág, for introducing the latest edition of the Eurasia volume of studies. With that, we reached the end of our program. I hope you all agree with me when I say that we have a very productive and rewarding day. Thank you very much for being with us. Our speakers have guided us through the most topical and intriguing questions of our times in the fields of science, technology, and geopolitics. I wish you all a great rest of the day, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. on the second day of the Budapest Eurasia Forum 2024. Tomorrow we will have a keynote conversation as an opening and as a closing session with further panel discussions on economics, multilateral cooperation and education during the day. If you missed any of the speeches or you would like to rewatch them, please visit our sessions at the Budapest Eurasia Forum website. Here in the upcoming days, all the sessions will be available on demand soon. Thank you very much to all our guests, both physical and online, for participating.